ជំរាបសួរប្រិយមិត្តអ្នកស្ដាប់ជាទីគោរពនាងខ្ញុំសម្បត្តិសុវណ្ណរីពីវិទ្យាស្ថានកម្ពុជាសម្រាប់ការសិក្សាយុទ្ធសាស្ត្រពេលនេះស្ថាប័នយើងខ្ញុំមានបទវិភាគអំពីបញ្ហាសំខាន់ៗនៃកិច្ចប្រជុំកំពូលអាស៊ានលើកទី28និង29នៃសាធារណរដ្ឋប្រជាមានិតឡាវដូច្នេះសូមមេត្តាស្ដាប់ដូចតទៅ
On the 7th of September, ASEAN and Australia released a joint statement that focuses on cooperation to combat international terrorism. Terrorism is becoming an increasingly relevant topic for ASEAN and the world, and it is no surprise that it is one of the major themes of discussion at the ongoing ASEAN summit. This is in part because of the global reach that international terrorism now has, because of the realities of a more globalized world that we live in today. The media, in turn, also plays a big role in the way that terrorism is securitized. We are now able to hear more about what happens in opposite corners of the world instantly through both traditional media sources as well as social media. This is not to say that terrorism is a new phenomenon or that it is vastly more prevalent today than in other periods of history. Terrorism has always been prevalent throughout the world. It's just that in the information age we live in, there is greater and more pervasive media coverage, and the international aspect of terrorist groups, like the Islamic State, forces people to confront the realities of terrorism. This joint statement is particularly significant because of the distinct nature of policy formation in ASEAN states. Elite-driven policy is a common theme in ASEAN, and this joint statement goes a long way for establishing the foundations of a sound framework for regional counterterrorism. Furthermore, the joint statement explicitly disentangles the notion of terrorism being rooted in religion, and ASEAN can make progress towards religious tolerance whilst avoiding xenophobia. In a regional grouping that prides itself on its cultural, social, and religious diversity, this is of paramount importance for future counterterrorism policy. This is not to say that before this joint statement there were no successes in ASEAN counterterrorism policy. Individually, ASEAN member states have achieved relative success in securitizing terrorism. Take, for example, Malaysia. Their efforts to Islamize knowledge, which challenged the Western modalities of what constituted knowledge, allowed the government to regain authorship of the Islamic narrative within Malaysia. Additionally, Indonesia's Pancasila national philosophy embodies the inclusiveness of the ethnically and religiously diverse country and prevents the marginalization of minorities. These successes in promoting inclusiveness and taking authorship of religious narratives have been significant in stemming the use of radical religious narratives to elicit support for terrorist groups. However, this joint statement recognizes the international threat of terrorism, and the individual successes in ASEAN states can provide a platform for successful policy at the regional level. The framework outlined in this joint statement paves the way for greater information exchange about understanding of how religious narratives and elite-driven policy can be consolidated in individual ASEAN states, but also through policy initiatives that can prevent the financial or human flows of international terrorist groups through ASEAN. All things considered, this is a promising signal of intent and has the potential to take the lessons learned from the successful securitization of terrorism in individual ASEAN states to create a coherent and effective platform for ASEAN counterterrorism policy of the future.